All right. Are you starting the broadcast or am I doing that?
I'll start.
All right. I will stand by.
I'll do a 5-minute intro, or
Okay.
I'll try to keep it to 5, and then I'll turn it over to you.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Good morning. I just wanted to welcome you to the first broadcast of 2018 for DBA Fundamentals. We actually had one last night, but that was in Australia. So anyway.
Australia doesn't count.
Anyway, today we have Erik Darling doing the Junior DBA workout plan. We've had this scheduled for a long time. I've been looking forward to it. I know our people love this type of stuff. So anyway, on to a couple of other things. Our sponsors, our main one sponsor, Century One, great company. They're a great supporter of Pass and a lot of other things. They've got a lot of great products, but they also have a lot of freebies that you need to go check out, and then talk to them about some of their products. On that screen, if you want to hit the screenshot at the top, you can get a copy of that and use that to go look at some of their products. You can also get performance answers. You can download a copy of Plan Explorer. That's fantastic.
Gotta love that Plan Explorer.
Oh yeah, it's great. And now that they're giving away the professional version, it's just great. So anyway, try that out. Virtual group news. Our contest for this year is mainly for the first 6 months of the year, just to accumulate people going to sessions. We're going to give away, because it'll make it easier on us, 3 big prizes at the end of June. A $1,000 Amazon gift card, a $500 one, and a $300 one. And
I'm going to start showing up.
I hope it. It's pretty good. Anyway, you have to be a member of Pass, which most everybody is, but that's one of the things that you have to be. You must be one of our Twitter followers, and you must be subscribed to our YouTube channel. And you get an entry for each session that you attend, either in Australia, and we've got a lot of great sessions coming up. So you're going to learn a lot of information, and also possibly be able to win some big gift cards. But you'll get one entry for each session that you attend. And if you have 2 or 3 sign-ons, you're only going to get one for that session. So don't do that.
Sneaky.
Yeah, well, people do that. Anyway, our next session will be Not So Secret, Get to Know SQL Server Agent with Jess Borland. That's going to be a great session coming up on the 23rd. And then we start off with a lot of SQL skills people, which are great. Aaron Stellato.
Well, I'm definitely showing up for that one.
To in-memory OLTP, and then Glenn Berry with migrating SQL Server 2017, and then down under Glenn Berry is doing HADR 101 with 2017, and then Tim Radney with common SQL Server mistakes and how to avoid them. Brent Ozar with what to do when SQL Server is slow.
Never heard of him.
That's going to be he's a new guy. He's an up and comer though. I've heard he's pretty good.
Yeah. First time blogger.
Index fragmentation, internals analysis and solutions with Paul Randall. And then we have a blank spot in there, and then we have Kendra Little with index design patterns for beginners. So we've got a great lineup coming in for the first part of the year, so it's not going to be wasted. And you get a chance to win that $1,000, $500, and $300 Amazon gift card. Pass has lots of other virtual groups, and not this time because I was too busy. We're going to highlight a virtual group each time just to talk about that. We're also going to talk about new bloggers, and I had one picked out, just didn't have time to put it in. We'll do it for the 23rd. The Junior DBA workout plan by Erik Darling.
You don't have to read that whole thing. It's too loud.
I'm not. I'm going to let you explain it, but if you've ever listened to any Brent Ozar broadcast, Eric. He's on most, if not all of them. So I'm not even going to go into
Whether
it
I'm
in much
invited or not,
detail.
I show up. I'm here.
I'm going to pass it over. We are
All right.
okay. One thing, we will be recording the sessions.
Okay.
Definitely be recording it, and they'll be available within a day or two at the most.
I'll try not to curse too much then. Wouldn't want to look unprofessional.
Okay, I'm going to transfer it over to you.
All right.
And hey, that was good. I got it in 5 minutes.
It's not bad at all. All right, I'm gonna show application. Yes, that application. There we go.
There we go.
We already have a question. How do we check the status of our entries?
There won't be a way to check the status because we're doing this to make it easier on us. We're going to accumulate it at the end. You can check with us and let us know that you have signed up with different things, and we'll check on that. But you can email DBA Fundamentals for that.
We'll give out Steve's cell phone number at the end of the webcast if you want to give him a call.
I don't think so. My own call number. Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah. Call his pager.
Yeah. Okay. I'll turn it over to you now.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for showing up. This is my brand spanking new session called the Junior DBA Workout Plan. And it's kind of geared towards folks who are junior, kind of mid-level DBAs who just aren't really sure where they're going or what they're doing with SQL Server anymore. So first thing is I talk fast. I have seen several medical professionals about this, including Dr. Kendra Little, and it's just an incurable disease. The good news is that it is a true measure of how excited I am about what I'm talking about. So if I start talking really slow, you can tell that I'm bored. If I'm talking really fast like this, then I'm engaged. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be talking about what I'm talking about. You don't want me to slow down. If I slow down, it's no good. Everyone starts falling asleep. A little bit about me. My name is Eric. I, of course, work for Brent Ozar Unlimited. I'm a proud contributor to the First Responder Kit. That's all the SP Blitz scripts that we publish and give away for free under the MIT license for you to help find all your SQL Server follies. Sometimes I even contribute things other than bugs, and I'm very proud of that. Before I worked for Brent, I was a DBA at an eDiscovery shop, and before that, I was a developer at a market research firm. I do like getting email. I don't like Twitter. I don't have Facebook, Twitter, or anything like that, no Instagram. So if you're talking to anyone named Erik Darling on any of those platforms, it is not me, unfortunately. It might be an imposter. It might just be some random person. If you want to get in touch with me, my email address is on the slide right there. That's Eric with a K. Don't spell it wrong or else I won't get it. And let me know that you are contacting me because you were in this session, because I get a lot of email with people who want to play SQL Jeopardy, and I just can't seem to answer them all fast enough. So if you tell me that you were here, then I at least can prioritize things a little bit. Now, when you look at this slide, you might be wondering some stuff like, how the hell did you get here? How many naked pictures do you have of Brent? The answer is I have a lot. He's just not very ashamed of them. Who would trust you with legal data? Who would trust you with a child? This market research is a weird code word for like jail because you're covered in tattoos. Well, not really. If you're really interested in how I got started with SQL, I wrote a post on my personal blog about it that kind of goes into where I was before this and how I got into things. I'm not going to go through it all here. If you guys want to head off and read that, when I'm done talking, of course, you go ahead. So about you, again, you're a junior or mid-level DBA. You don't need me telling you how to do your current job. You don't need me to tell you to do backups and check for corruption and stuff like that. But you're just kind of not sure how to get to the next level. You don't know if you're going to be able to move up at your current job, or if you need to go get a new job in order to move up and get that big paycheck and get that big resume and all that other fun stuff. Now, when you're figuring that stuff out, you do have to make some tough decisions. See, when I worked for that market research firm, I was there for 10 years. I was kind of a kid when I started working there. I wasn't doing SQL development work the entire time. I was moving up slowly. I started in the call center. But after a while of working with SQL, they just didn't need a full-time DBA. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to be. I liked working with SQL Server. Towards the end of my gig, they wanted me to start programming surveys. I just didn't want any part of that. So that's when I moved on and I got my next job, where I was a DBA at an eDiscovery shop. Now, eDiscovery is a big business. It's mostly driven by one product called K-Curve Relativity, or just Relativity now. But I was the only DBA there, and I was managing about 100 terabytes of data, and I was on call all the time. And then Brent came knocking. He said, "Hey, would you like a job?" And of course, I wouldn't say no to that. But when you're the only DBA, it's tough because you're already, being senior wouldn't have meant anything except more money. I would have had the title, but I wasn't answering to anyone, and no one was answering to me. There was no career path. When you're the single point of failure, you don't have a path. You just kind of exist. When you're the only DBA, though, you're kind of already the senior DBA because you're not answering to anyone, and no one's answering to you. But you just kind of exist. You're also, though, the junior DBA because no one's answering to you, and you don't have anyone to tell what to do. Like, hey, go set this up. I'll check your work later. Hey, we have a new server. Go put all the scripts on there and set them up. I'll go check it later. You have to do all that footwork yourself. It's also a very, very lonely thing because you don't have anyone to talk to about being a DBA, about the DBA stuff going on. You're pretty much just stuck, reading blogs and, going on Twitter and hoping someone answers you. You're a single point of failure, like the brain, like the heart, like the liver. If you go, that's it, and you need help, but you just don't have that help. Now, whenever Brent teaches his senior DBA class, he trots this slide out, and I have to laugh at it because Brent remembers DBA life as being a very segmented, very focused thing where there were several different types of DBAs and they were all off kind of doing their own thing. They had very specific duties and it was all pretty clearly outlined who does what and when. Now, I remember DBA life being a little bit different. For me, DBA life looked a little bit more like this, where I was stuck doing a little bit of everything, slightly different day of the week for a slightly different amount of time, but I was sitting there doing all of it. There was no other DBA helping me out. There was no football jersey wearing team of DBAs going and helping me do stuff. It was just me. And when I looked at how I was working and I looked at the number of things I was doing and how often I was doing them, it started to occur to me that what I did looked a lot like exercise. When you go, it's the new year, you all probably have one of these Excel files on your phone now where you're like, oh yeah, this is the thing I'm going to do when I go to the gym. It probably might look something like this, or at least I hope it does, or otherwise you might have chosen your workout poorly. And it looks like exercise because it is. Now, if you want to get big and strong, if you want to be that big bad senior DBA with that big resume and that big paycheck, you have to do some work for it. Now, before we talk about the kind of DBA that you should be, let's talk about the kind of DBA that you don't want to be. And this is unfortunately someone who I talk to far too often when we're working with clients, where it's someone who's like, I've been working with SQL Server for 25 years. I started when it was Sybase. Here's like the stuff that I do. And I'm like, dude, you haven't done a single new thing in 25 years. Your skills are still the same as they were 25 years ago. You have learned nothing. I have a name for that kind of person. That's the Groundhog DBA. They've been doing the exact same thing day in and day out for their entire career, and they lean on that. And that sucks. That's like the worst way to be. Because when you look at this guy, no, I don't mean to be weird and sexist about anything. The stock photo thing the stock photo site that we used just didn't have a picture of a girl holding bigger weights that I could find. But when you look at this guy and you see that he gets bigger in every step of the way, what I want you to notice is that the size of the weight that he's holding gets bigger. If you keep doing that same little thing over and over and over again, you don't get big, you don't progress, you don't make any progress, you do nothing, you stay in place. If you want to get bigger, you have to do bigger things. You have to lift that heavier weight. One of my absolute favorite people in the world is a guy named Ronnie Coleman, and he has this great saying that everybody wants to be a bodybuilder, but don't nobody want to lift no heavy ass weight. And that's the same thing is true when I talk to these DBAs who just do nothing. They do the same small little thing every single day. They don't do anything bigger. They don't do anything more challenging. They stay in place their entire life, but they get called senior just because they've stuck around for long enough. Now, growth to me, and growth, well, just about anyone, is a process. If you want to grow, you need to do three things. You need to stress yourself, So that you need some outside stimulus that forces you to learn something or do something. You need to adapt to that stress, and you need to figure out if I can do that again. Like if you go to the gym and you set a 1 rep max, and then next week you go back and you can't do it, you're like, what's that, my 1 rep max? Did I actually do that? Did I lift that 500 pounds? I don't know. And then you need to recover from the stress and the adaptation. Now, the best way I find to recover from learning is to teach someone else how to do what you just learned how to do. And the reason that I like that is because it forces you to do a few things. There's a few really important things. One is to think critically about the subject, right? You learn something and you think you know it, but then when you think about having to tell someone else how to do it, you really have to think about what you know. You have to simplify your explanations. And the process of simplifying an explanation teaches you so much about what you don't know about something. And then you have to challenge your assumptions. Now, I can't tell you how many times I've been writing blog posts and I've been going like just on the verge of saying something and be like, wait, I don't know if that's true. I have to go test that now. And that's one of the best and biggest parts of learning, is when you have to try to teach that thing that you're not sure about. And these things all help you. The same way that eating right and exercising and not smoking will help you outlive your usefulness on the planet, doing all that stuff will help you be a useful person in your career and be useful to other people. Now, when you're junior or mid-level DBA, or really with any position, you think it sucks because you're not, the big senior DBA, you don't get paid $1 billion, all that other stuff. But this is kind of like the best part of your career. And it is because there's a lot of joy to being junior at something. Everything is new and cool. You can open almost any blog post, like not my blog post. You can't learn anything from those, but like other people, other smart people who write stuff, you can go open their blog posts and learn a ton of stuff. And I miss those days, like not like the pay or the hours, because those were miserable, but the amount that I could learn, just like cracking open an email or anything like that, it was fantastic. These days, if I want to learn something, if I want to go out and really learn something new about a subject in SQL Server, I need to set up some pretty complicated tests to figure it out. But just because the bigger and stronger you get at something, the harder it is to get bigger and stronger. You get to learn everything now that as a beginner, and it's really easy to find something new to explore. You haven't fully explored so many topics yet. There's so many brand new things. There's so much blue water out there for you. Don't mess this up by trying to do the biggest, most complicated thing. A good example of this is like some availability groups where, if you want to learn about availability, if you're like, oh, I want to set up a 42 node AG with failover clusters and like all this other crazy stuff. And it's like, just don't. How about you just see if you can, how about you just tell me if you have Hyper-V like enabled on your laptop first, and maybe see how good you do at setting up a couple VMs and making them talk to each other, because that's a lot harder than it looks. When you're starting out and you're trying to learn something, start with the simplest examples and concepts you can and teach them. Because remember those 3 steps. You already forgot the 3 steps. Stress, adaptation, and recovery. Those are the 3 things that you need to do to fully learn something. So what's your workout plan going to be? How are you going to get big and strong, become that big, bad senior DBA with that big, bad paycheck and that big, bad resume? Well, you need 4 things to start with. You need a gym. You need a safe place to learn and train. You need to invest in your growth. Those are like the calories. You got to eat big to get big. And then you need some equipment to train with. And then finally, you will know what exercises you need to do. Your gym, of course, is a safe place to learn. I'm not body shaming you. I'm not calling you too fat or too skinny. But production servers is not where you get to learn SQL. Production is the Olympics. That's where you go after you've trained your butt off and probably injected yourself with a bucket of whale hormones to get that big. Now, when I was starting out with SQL, I was awful at this. I was so bad at this. I had an ETL server that was also my dev server. And my boss said, you can do whatever you want with this. And I said, cool. So as soon as I kind of got my footing with SQL, what I did was, kind of obvious. I created a database named Erik, and I would create tables and other weird stuff in there, and I would do all these awful things in that database, and I would do all sorts of awful things on the server because that's your dev server, that's your ETL server. Do whatever you want, have fun. Then one day I was on the phone with my boss, and he said, "Hey, we got an email from some VP off in the fancy corner office," and he's like, "Hey, we just got an email," and he said his reports haven't really been running too well the last few days. Can you take a look at it? And I was like, well, yeah, where is the reports? And he's like, well, they're on your ETL server. I was like, why? Why would you do that to me? Because it turned out over that week or so, I had been experimenting with different Mac stops on my ETL server because I wanted to see how the speed at which different files would kind of load under different Mac stops. So I could kind of figure out like one good Mac stop that would work across the board for most things. And man, was I surprised. So the lesson learned here is don't be like me, ever. In most things, don't be like me, but especially don't be like me by thinking that your dev server isn't production. I love experimenting. I do, and I want you to experiment. And I want you to have fun experimenting and learn all this good crazy stuff. I just don't want you to experiment when other people might notice what you're doing. Your experiments should be private. Those should be things that you like. Eating egg salad is not something you should do publicly. Now, your calories are kind of a different thing. The calories kind of come from a couple of different places. They come from you, and they come from your job, the company you work for. Companies invest in you and your career by paying you and giving you benefits like healthcare and vacation and other stuff like that. And they also invest in you by paying for stuff like training and education. Having a development environment is an extension of that training and education. It's a safe place away from production where you test code and indexes, where you test patches for SQL Server, where you test new versions of SQL Server and see how they work with your code. If you can't do that in production reliably or safely. Now, pay isn't absolutely everything. And I know it's probably sounds like that's an easy thing to say for a guy who once drank a $450 glass of scotch, but it's not. Part of what matters for you as a junior DBA, and what matters is going to matter a lot for your personal growth and your professional growth, is if your job is willing to send you to training, like send you to an in-person training class, if your job is willing to pay for online training, if your job is willing to send you to conferences like PASS, if your job is willing to purchase or provision like VM for you to do this testing on. That's huge. And there are also stuff like purchase licenses for tools, whether it's like monitoring or just like code helper tools or stuff like that. That stuff is all part of your salary. That's part of your development. And if your company isn't investing in you, you need to find one that will. Because if your company isn't investing in you, it means they don't really believe in you, or that they don't really need you. Because if they're not teaching you how to do your job better, it doesn't sound like it's a very important job to them. So if you want that kind of stuff, you need to find a place that does think it's important and does place value and does believe in you. That's because DBAs, almost more than developers, need a development environment. I see a lot of scary questions out there on the internet. Like, how do I do something with all the Hallinger scripts? It's like, well, why aren't you testing it? It's like, I don't have any place to test it. I'm like, well, man, you're in trouble, because if that change goes wrong, if it works on my machine and not yours, you're in trouble. They'll ask what happens when you change a setting, ask if you can fix their corrupt database for them, ask if this service pack or cumulative update has any bugs in it, ask how long DBC check DB is going to take, and they'll ask crazy things like, why isn't my AG online? I'm like, I don't know. At least show me the error log, please. It's like anything. Give me anything. Now, dev at your job does need to mirror production pretty closely. If you're using AGs, if you're using failover clusters, if you're using mirroring or log shipping, then your development environment needs to mirror as closely as possible. Maybe not like to the CPU or to like the gig of RAM, but it does need to mirror that, because you can't really test stuff on a single server the way you need to test stuff on an AG or with mirroring or with anything else that's synchronizing data, especially because so many service packs and cumulative updates that say they fix something with especially availability groups actually break stuff too. And there have been lots of service packs and lots of cumulative updates where they've been applied to a node in an AG, and that AG has stopped synchronizing or something else. So you really do need as close a mirror as possible to prod in dev. Oh, your equipment, this is another matter, because this may not exactly be a development environment. This might be personal to you. Now, the no-brainer here is, of course, that SQL Server Developer Edition has been free since SQL Server 2014. I know. You're stuck in a shop where everyone's on 2008 RTM or 2008 R2. You're not using 2014 or 2017 or we just got cumulative update 3 for 2017. So I bet those technical previews of 2018 are going to start rolling out any day now. The release cycle of SQL Server isn't getting any less fast paced. It's not slowing down. You need to be testing on the new stuff for a few reasons. It future-proofs your career. I swear I haven't been drinking. Your next job may depend on you and your knowledge of these new technologies. Your current job might even have secret upgrade plans that they haven't told you about because they don't care about you. If you're stuck on old and busted SQL Server versions, dev does need to match that. But for you personally, you should be experimenting with the newer stuff because that's where all the cool stuff is. That's where all the cool kids are playing. That's like the new club everyone's going to. They're pop collars and 10 gallons of Axe. Now, my old equipment, and actually the thing I'm doing this presentation on, I'd flip my webcam down to show you, but I don't want to see you. I don't want you to see me in my sweatpants, and that would be embarrassing, even though I work from home. So you just have to take a leap of faith that the laptop I'm pointing at is the same laptop in that picture. And it's a pretty decent computer. Like, I have no complaints about this. It's got 32 gigs of RAM. It's got 4 cores. It's got 8 with hyper-threading. It's pretty fast. I do all my presentations on this. When I travel, go do demos on that stuff, all of it is on this laptop. It's perfectly fine for most stuff. But when I need to go do bigger stuff, when I needed more space, I went and I built out my home server. I spent Brent's money on my home server, but this is awesome. I love this thing. It's what I do all my at-home experiments on because it's such a nice, big, wide open playground for me. It's got 6 cores, 12 with hyper-threading. They're fast. It's got 128 gigs of RAM. It's got a whole mess of SSDs in there. It's a pretty sweet setup, but you just don't need that yet. You'll get there. You'll get to the point where you need that. You might even have development servers now that surpass that. That's great, but you don't need to do that yet. Don't focus on having the biggest and best thing to do your work on because you're just not there yet. The laptop that you have at work is probably fine for doing most of the little experiments that you need to do right now. So, we said all that. What exercises do you need to do in order to become the next level, in order to hit the next level in your DBA career? Now, this is the hard part because if we go back to Brent's slide, or we go back to my slide rather, if you look at all these different things, it's hard to be good at everything. One thing that always happens when people get into like weightlifting or bodybuilding or whatever it is they have these goals. Like, I want to be 300 pounds and ripped. And I got to tell you, it's hard to be 300 pounds or ripped. Embracing that it makes things exponentially more difficult. If you want to get good at a group of things, you have to focus on that group of things. If you are the kind of person who likes to design tables, then this is the kind of stuff that I would ask you about if I were interviewing you to be a junior or mid-level DBA. I would want to know how comfortable you are with normalization. If you look at a table and you see fields that are like numbered, like address 1, address 2, phone 1, 2, 3, 4, I would expect you to throw a red flag at that because that's not a good way to be storing data. I would expect you to know what makes a good clustered index. Hint, it's not that in varchar 1000 column that you think is unique. That's not a very good choice. I would expect you to know the benefits and drawbacks of foreign keys. I would expect you to know how to pick the correct data types for things. And this doesn't mean that I'm going to rake you over the coals if you choose a date time when you only needed a date. It does mean that if you pick an in varchar 64 for every column, I'm probably going to freak out on you. I would also like you to know kind of what computed columns do and how they can help with certain types of queries. If you're the kind of person who is into writing and tuning queries, and these are the kind of stuff that I would ask you about. Why certain kind of functions are bad. what the performance impact that certain kind of functions have on queries, the drawbacks of table variables, because there are lots of them that people just generally don't know about. Every day I get paid to go tell people that their table variables aren't that great. How to write and kind of what common table expressions are good for. When and how to use dynamic SQL safely. If I see you writing a bunch of variable concatenated exec dynamic SQL, I'm going to throw you out a window. And I would really expect you to be good at writing cross-apply queries and knowing when they help things and when they just kind of don't make a difference. So those are the examples of things that I would be asking during an interview with a junior or mid-level DBA. When it comes to index tuning, key versus included columns, what the benefits are of being a key column versus an included column, what included columns help, and key column ordering, stuff like that. I would like you to know the problems with heaps. Tables that don't have clustered indexes have a lot of drawbacks to them. I would expect you to know the benefits and some of the drawbacks of unique indexes, and also filtered indexes, why certain queries may not be able to use a filtered index that you just created. I would also like if you knew how to do stuff like index to solve a particular problem, or index for a particular query construct, like a windowing function. If you're the kind of person who is not really in the design and querying and performance tuning thing, if you're more of like the infrastructure type, and you want to be into monitoring, this is the kind of stuff that I would ask you about. I would want to know how comfortable you are with weight stats, which weight stats you look at, which ones you care about. I would want to ask you about how you when you start worrying about locking or when deadlocks become a problem. I would want you to know how to get stuff out of the plan cache, how to examine plans in the plan cache. I would like you to know about poison weights that can slow your server down to a crawl and leave your monitoring tools blank and lonely. Stuff like thread pool and resource semaphore. And I would also like you to tell me which metrics don't matter to you. I don't want to hear about disk queue length. I don't want to hear about fragmentation. I don't want to hear about context switching is another big one that people used to care about. I just don't want to hear about that stuff. I want to hear about the stuff that actually will harm performance on a server. If you're again sticking with the infrastructure type crowd, if you're into troubleshooting outages, I would want to put you in a room with some computers, and I would want to disable network adapters, change permissions on quorum disks so they disappear, hard boot servers so that they don't fail over gracefully, flood the network with just nonsense, and do something like rebuild indexes in a loop and just send a ton of transactions across the wire and see how you react to it. This is the kind of stuff that happens accidentally in production and causes failures and failovers that a lot of people just aren't prepared to deal with when they're starting out. This is the kind of stuff like, well, what happens when, I don't know. Well, this is the beauty of getting that dev environment together. If you're the kind of person who is into designing HA and DR, I would expect you to do stuff like understand RPO and RTO. I would expect you to understand, I can't tell you how many times, we've been interviewing people and I'll ask a question like, okay, well, the company says that they only want to lose 15 minutes or 5 minutes of data. How would you set up backups? And they say, well, I take log backups every 15 minutes. Say, okay, well, the company says that they only want to lose 5 minutes of data. How would you set it back? And well, I take log backups every 15 minutes. And we kind of get into the staring contest where I'm just waiting for them to give me something. I'm just waiting for more. I'm waiting for something to click and it never does. I would expect someone designing HA and DR to understand where backups fit into an HADR strategy, because there are some times when you just need to start restoring stuff. There's sometimes that just needs to happen. I would expect you to know which technologies are available to your version in addition of SQL Server. I would expect you to know pretty well about quorum, how to set up disks or other witnesses to make sure that your environments are stable. And probably most importantly is I would want you to know the limitations of whatever HA and DR technology that we're investing in, just because I don't want anyone to have unreasonable expectations of it. If someone says, hey, I want to have 0-minute RPO and RTO, and you're like, oh, cool, we'll just log ship it. That's probably not going to work out too well. That's probably not the best choice. If you want to earn some random unicorn points with me, well, knowing how to deal with corruption, you don't have to be like aces at it. You don't have to be Paul Randall when it comes to fixing it. Just kind of know what you do to deal with it. Like get a restore started, know how far back the corruption went, stuff like that. How to restore a backup chain with differentials. this is another big stumbling point in interview questions. I'm like, okay, well, how do you restore this log chain, this backup chain? And they say, well, I restore that full backup. I'm like, yep. No, I restore the next differential. I'm like, okay. And then the next differential, I'm like, okay. And the next differential, all of a sudden, up to like 5 differentials. And then they start with the transaction logs. I'm like, okay, well, good news. You don't have to restore all those differentials. Bad news, you're not getting the job. How to read execution plans is another big one. Like, you don't have to be Grant Fritchie when it comes to reading execution plans, but I'd expect you to know where to find certain things. Say like the degree of parallelism or something like that. Optimistic isolation levels are a big one. Readers not blocking writers and writers not blocking readers is one of the coolest things in databases. SQL Server is pessimistic by default. By default, they use the read committed isolation level, and this is why there's no lock hints everywhere, because people just didn't know how to fix it with something else. Turns out there are better ways. People just don't know a whole lot about them. And the big unicorn point thing for me as a guy who does enjoy his query tuning is sargability. Sargability is the concept where the optimizer can take whatever argument you're passing in, whatever variable you're passing in, and apply it efficiently to an index. And a lot of people just do stuff that breaks that awfully, and they just don't understand why. They don't know why their query is slow, why these bad things are happening. So what you need to do is choose wisely. You need to think about what you're doing today at your job, and you want to think about how well you do it. And if if whatever you are doing, you want to try to learn, maybe go through the slides, maybe go through the stuff that I talked about here, maybe apply that stuff to what you're learning. You also want to think carefully about what you want to be doing down the line. If you're doing like the backups and restores and the maintenance plans or Ola Hallengren scripts or whatever it is, and you want to be doing the table design, the query tuning, the monitoring, whatever it is you want to be doing, that's the kind of stuff that I would expect someone who wants to do that stuff to be learning or knowing. So if that's the kind of stuff you want to be doing, that's the kind of stuff that you need to be exploring. Now, there have been a lot of rumors about the DBA being dead, and it's not. The DBA job is not dead, but the job is getting harder. The days of, the DBA just being a guy who sets up some maintenance plans, make sure that the tapes are in order, and other stuff, that's just not what the DBA job is going to be forever. For every easy thing that Microsoft automates, there are tons of hard things that still need a person. No one is hiring maintenance plan whiz kids. You need to learn for tomorrow. This is where you're going to be. This is where testing like the new versions of stuff comes in. This is where learning about stuff like column store comes in. This is the next stuff that you're going to have to know for your career. This is the stuff that Microsoft hasn't fixed yet. Now, whenever someone talks to me about all the automation that's being built in, my first question is, okay, but what if performance was never good? You can automate something being a little bit better and a little bit worse, but it's never going to be good until someone who knows what they're doing walks in and again gets their hands on the server. I would love for that not to be a thing, and I'm psyched on all this little tiny things that Microsoft is fixing. But this is the truth. This is what's going to keep you employed for a while, is knowing how to do the hard stuff. So don't go and jump in that grave just yet. I don't think you're quite dead. Now, when you're starting out, and especially if you are the only DBA in your shop, or especially if it's just hard for you to talk to other people about the stuff you want to learn about, there are great ways to get some free training out there. I'm not going to do any personal or professional pumping up of like other stuff that I'm talking at or other things that I do. This is just stuff that what you can do for free without wasting too much time. There are some great resources out there. dba.stackexchange.com is one of them. I answer questions on there. You don't have to go upvote me, but I appreciate it. I like those little green ticks. It's a great resource for Q&A about DBA stuff. I think it's better than Stack Overflow generally because you get a more focused crowd there. SQL Server Central has great forums, lots of smart people over there answering questions. SQL Performance also Steve mentioned earlier, answers.sqlperformance.com. Lots of smart people answering questions about stuff there. And forums.sqlteam.com, not as lively as it used to be, but still pretty interesting. You can still get some pretty good stuff out of that. But there are some caveats. Now, the focus of this deck has been a lot on you doing stuff. And that holds true for asking questions too. Because when I see people out there asking questions that they could answer themselves with like minimal testing, like will this command work? I'm like, you have a computer. You are asking this question on a computer. Please just hit F5. Just, you can do it. Like, I have faith in you. You know where that button is. Someone might answer those easy questions you have for you, but that's not really you getting any stronger. You're not getting any better, right? That just, like, you might learn something because someone gave you the answer, but you're not getting much stronger at your job. Always experiment on your own first. That's more you investing in yourself. And then if you can't figure out what you need to know from your experiments, post that question. Post your experiment. Say, this is what I did. This is what I tried. I couldn't quite figure it out. What am I doing wrong? What's the next thing? Let's see. We do have a question that is finally not about someone winning an Amazon card. I'm stoked. Are there areas outside of DevOps, cloud, automation, tuning that you should focus on? Yeah. So I think one thing that you're leaving out is sort of the data familiarity areas of SQL Server. So my guy, Richie, who works with us, calls himself a data developer, and that's because he works very closely with the data, and he understands how to design tables and design databases and do all the normalization and stuff like that. He's not the query tuning guy. He's not the index tuning guy, but he knows data really well, and he knows how to get data from one place to another really well. So I think there is a layer in there that you're missing, that is someone who is working very closely with the data and not just doing like the sort of infrastructure stuff, like managing cloud hardware or whatever else, or managing code deployments and stuff. There's someone who there's still a very, very big room for people who work with data but aren't necessarily doing the sort of infrastructure-y, cloudy things. Data still needs to exist on-prem for a lot of different reasons. You also need to know how to ask a good question. Now, you have to understand that you are asking on an open forum. You can't expect someone answering questions for free to troubleshoot 1,000-line stored procedure for you. If you just post the text out and Stack Exchange or something, like, okay, well, why is this slow? No one's going to jump on that, except to downvote you and close the question. It's just not a great way to ask. Be thorough. No one can see your computer screen. If you have error messages, if you have a query plan, if you have create table statements, stuff like that, the more information that you can get out to people, the better. I understand that that's not necessarily always possible, but we'll talk about that. And the other part is to be responsive. If someone asks for more information, don't take days to come up with it. Don't not answer their question. Don't argue with them and say, oh, you don't need to know that, because usually the person asking you knows a little bit more and probably does need that information if they want to help you. The more information you give, the better your answers are. Now, performance is tricky because you can't always post code or query plans, and I get it. I'm totally fine with that because there's a lot of PII out there, and I don't want you posting people's social security numbers as parameter, stuff like that. So, and as someone who tries to help people for free out on the internet, reading anonymized plans is awful. That, like, object 1, column 1, object 17, it's impossible to really get a good grip on. So what I would suggest is, if you can't really post the full repro of what's going on, try to reproduce a minimum viable product. So you don't need every single table, you don't need every single index to the T, you don't need your code to a T, you just need to create enough similar things to reproduce the issue without actual production data. Usually you can get to the bottom of, you can figure that out, but it does take some practice. At the very least, if you can provide it, tables and index definitions, it helps us as people who answer stuff for free out tremendously. If you need help writing a query, if you're getting started, if you've written select and then you've gotten writer's block and you just put your head down on your desk and you're like, I give up, I just don't know where to go from here. If you provide some test data as inserts, don't say like, this is my data and just pass in like a list of stuff. It doesn't help anyone. If you want people to help you write a query, they need to be able to work with the data. The easiest way to do that, write insert values, whatever you have to do, whatever magic random number stuff you come up with, write the data as inserts, because you will get a much better, much faster answer. Tell us what results you expect. If you say, I can't figure out how to group these medians or whatever else, and I keep getting the wrong results, we don't know what the wrong results are to you. Tell us, please. We want to get those unicorn points. We want the little green upticks on Stack Overflow. We don't want the little red the little red ones. Most importantly, search for related questions first. There is nothing worse than kind of a lazy question where the answer has been out there a million times, like, how do I split this string? Like, well, there's at least 1,000 answers if you search for them. So that's really not the best question to ask. Make sure that at least if you're going to ask that question, you have something new to add to it. So to recap a little bit, no one starts senior. No one starts out being the big bad senior DBA bodybuilder. No one just walks into it. Enjoy your time being a junior DBA. Make sure that your job is invested in you. If they're not paying for you to learn and get better, you need to find a job that will, because no one's going to treat you as well as you treat yourself. Learn what's important. So don't spend a whole lot of time learning a whole bunch of meaningless things. Now, a good example of that is, when you get starting off with SQL Server, you read these internals books that are just like 40 pages. The first 40 pages are like, what does a data file look like? Knowing what a data file looks like has never helped me fix a performance issue. It has never helped me set up the right HADR strategy. It's good to be aware of, but that's not the thing that you want to get 100 on your test about. There's a lot more important things that actually matter to end users and to the business as far as data continuity goes, that you should be learning and you should know about. Get the best help possible. If you have a question, if you want to go out there and ask folks for help, give them as much background as you can, as much information as you can, because the more information you give, the better answers you get. And of course, something I've said a few times, teaching really is the most important part of the learning process. When you go out and you teach something, it forces you to learn more about something, and it forces you to know the subject better, because you have to be prepared for folks to ask you questions about it. Anyway, that's about the end of me. Again, contact information. If you want to email me, eric@brentozar.com. Again, that's Eric with a K, like the Viking, I think. If you want to read my blog post, if you've never heard of me before, I set up my own very narcissistic Go code on brentozar.com/go/Eric that'll lead you to all my blog posts. And if you want to download some free scripts that usually work and will help you find all of your SQL Server issues, head over to firstresponderkit.org. They are dead free. They're all MIT licensed. You can do whatever you want with them, and they are a lot of fun to write and work with. We have a question from Kirby. Are there certifications you recommend? No, absolutely not. Many Microsoft certifications are just kind of forcing you to learn stuff that Microsoft has put into the product. There's not really a whole lot of value to them practically as like day-to-day job stuff. I'll give you a good example. There's no Microsoft certification on index tuning. There's no Microsoft certification on query tuning. There are Microsoft certifications on writing queries, and they're full of like choose and if and like, how do I write this X query? No one's doing that. There's no big need out there for anyone doing that stuff. Skip the Microsoft stuff and go get training from one-on-one instructors or online training or something like that. Lots of places give it out, and lots of places have very good training. I'm not going to tell you to get ours, even though I'd love it if you did, but choose whoever your company is cool with. Just make sure that they're not retarded or drunk, I guess. What is the ideal number of servers that a junior or mid-level DBA can manage? Okay, so that's a good question. So it really does depend on what level you're managing them at. If you're only managing the hardware, you can probably manage a lot more than if you're also managing like OS and SQL Server patches. And if you get down to like the nitty-gritty where you're managing like the performance on servers too, you can really only manage a handful unless those 20 servers all have the exact same application on them. So really, it is like the more intimately you have to know about what's on the server, the fewer servers you can manage reliably. A good monitoring tool is going to be absolutely key if you have lots of servers like that, because there's no way for you to go hit F5 on all of them and figure stuff out. Michael asks, will this be recorded for the future? I guess Michael wasn't here for the first 5 minutes. Let's see here. Ravi asks, which of the scripting languages are a must in today's world for a DBA? Well, T-SQL seems to be going pretty well for me. I'd say that one gets my vote. If you're going to go the sort of infrastructure enterprise DBA route, you should learn PowerShell. It's not my thing. I'm not good at it. There are lots of folks who are. If you head on over to dbatools.io, there's a whole community of PowerShell people writing tools largely geared towards SQL Server. So that is what I'd say. What is the best way to start with Power? Good question. If you find out, let me know, because I would love to get started with PowerShell, because I'm god awful at it. I am day late and $sign short. Moving to Azure, what is the best training? I don't know. I don't meet a lot of folks moving to Azure. I know a lot of people who are starting new apps either in AWS or Azure, but they are starting like ground up development there. Moving to Azure is tough. That I'm not sure. I'm not sure that there's a good training path for that yet, just because it's such new ground, like people moving there. All right. Any other questions? Anything else? Y'all didn't have to be this quiet the whole time. All right. Is consolidation of database servers part of junior DBA to do unsupervised, or is it a bit far-fetched? Wow. So I don't think the entire consolidation project should be left to a single junior DBA. I do think that a single junior DBA can contribute quite a bit, especially if you don't have centralized monitoring information or centralized metrics on what all of these servers that are going to be consolidated are doing. So if, say, just for example, you are starting a project where you're going to consolidate everything from physical machines to virtual machines, and you want to know if you need like the same level of hardware and everything for the virtual machines. Well, if some of those physical machines are older, so like when a lot of people talk about like these big performance wins from virtualizing, it's like they took a SQL Server 2000 box and stuck it on hardware built in the last decade, and they're like 50% faster. Like, all right, cool. So you didn't need like 4 cores and 3 gigs of RAM. Wow. But I would say that DBAs have a whole lot. Junior DBAs could contribute a whole lot of profiling and figuring out what those other servers are doing and what their hardware needs are, and doing like the sort of general P2V work and testing workloads on virtualized servers and kind of tinkering there. So it will, would be totally good for you to get involved with that kind of project unsupervised. That is a little bit crazy because it's that is a lot of work. Let's see here. CheckDB, we are doing that on a separate server other than prod from the backup. Is that a recommended standard? Yeah, totally. As long as it's a full backup from the most recent run of the full backup, and you restore that to another server, totally cool with that. Do you have a daily routine set of tasks that a junior DBA should focus on? Well, the stuff that I talked about for each one of those specific areas is stuff that I think a junior DBA should be focusing on. But which ones you need to be focusing on really depends on, like we talked about, either what you're doing today at your job that you need to get better at to advance in your current gig, or what you want to get good at so that you can get that next job. So the kind of a separate paths there. Let's see here. Dave asks, I've taken training for a number of Microsoft courses, but not taken the certification test. Now my boss wants me to go back and get certified. Yeah, so it would be really interesting for me. What I would say to your boss is, okay, can you show me where like the stuff on this certification lines up with what I'm doing here? Because I just don't really see the value in it. If you go through like the training material from the certifications, I would just see how much of that lines up with like your current job duties or your expectations of you at your current gig, and just make sure that they're actually like there's actually some payoff there. Like you getting those certifications will make a difference. Now there's a Venn diagram of stuff Microsoft wants to teach you about because they put it in the product and the stuff you're actually doing at work, and that crossover is usually about one of these old man hairs. All right, anything else? I'll give it a couple of seconds in case someone's shy or a slow typer.
You can keep dancing if you want in between.
I think I'm an okay dancer. My daughter is much less enthusiastic about my dancing. For some reason, I don't know why.
I hear that gets worse as they get older as well. They get more and more embarrassed.
Yeah. You know, except that she's gonna like all my music, just not the way I dance to it. I think that's the inevitable. Someone asked about training for PowerShell. Yes, SQL Server Central also has a stairways to PowerShell. I don't know how often those stairways get updated though. There are a few of those stairways that are could use a broom and dustpan, some cobwebs on them. And there's nothing against the authors. There's nothing against SQL Server Central, but you know, SQL Server is changing so fast a lot, and PowerShell has changed a lot over the years. So you know, read them. They might be very helpful. They might be a good foundational knowledge. I just don't know if they're going to bring you to the year 2018 with what you learn. Enrique says, as far as I have heard from Paul Randall, it is not advised to do a check DB on a restored backup or, well, that's two different issues. A secondary in an AG, a log shipping secondary, a snapshot of a mirror, or an inconsistent VM or SAN snapshot doesn't buy you the same level of like let's call it authenticity with your corruption checks, but a full backup or a full SAN snapshot will. The offloaded checks for different HA and DR features, they don't work because you have that initial full backup, but then you're just restoring transactions on top of it, and it's not the bit for bit copy that a full backup or a SAN snapshot would be. Let's see here. What does a junior DBA know about designing a network? What? No, you're a junior DBA. You are not a junior network admin. if you really want to get into networking, that's kind of a whole different world, man. It's like saying, what do I need to know about security? It's like, well, a whole lot more than the database, right? The certification helps on no. Again, certifications really as far as I go, I don't have a single certification. I've never been an MVP. I don't have an MCIT. I had an A+ certification in 1999. I learned a lot about interrupt requests. Haven't used it. Maybe once. I don't know. I think it lapsed. It's very sad. Should DBAs be worried about Meltdown Inspector? I think DBAs should be worried about the performance impact of those patches, because I've heard some bad things about the slowdowns there. So rocking a hard place whether you're going to patch those servers and have your CPUs crawl to a halt, or if you're going to not patch them and have someone in a VM maybe look at a RAM address sometime. What if your current employer is not willing to invest in? Well, I'm assuming you're asking about a dev environment. Yeah, I would say that they're not really willing to invest in you then, or they don't really care about data as much as they should, and that's a big red flag for me. Companies that won't invest in a development environment, who want you to do all your testing on prod servers, don't respect their data. They don't respect their end users. That's a bad sign. That's a big red flag to me. I would probably want to start working on that resume, or just make sure you get Developer Edition installed on your laptop and start learning some stuff there. Let's see here. What do you suggest for speeding up moving backups across a shared network? I don't know. Take smaller backups. No, I don't know. I'm not big on networking. I also don't know anything about your current network, so I would not know what advice to give. If I told you to get 8 gig fiber channel, you might already have 8 gig fiber channel. If I told you to get 10 gig Ethernet, you might already have 10 gig Ethernet. I don't know. Faster disks, maybe too. Let's see here. Know about networks. You must use. Okay, so like CNAMEs, sure. That's a great one-off thing that DBAs might want to know about if the with networking, because quite often CNAME aliases are used with stuff like log shipping to point to a friendly name. So when they fail over, it's a little bit easier. But that really is kind of like one thing. That doesn't mean that you need to be like a DNS wizard or like the master of all things DHCP. I just wouldn't go that far with it. Let's see here. I am currently an admin in my organization. What did I do to Well, a Python course probably isn't going to get you those that DBA gig. I would start volunteer. So do free stuff. Coming to things like this is great. If you have SQL Saturdays around you, that's great too. All these online virtual chapters. Start volunteering to help with DBA-ish tasks. It might be that you have some accidental DBAs who would love to be doing something else. It might be that you have some, senior or, whatever you want to call them, DBAs who would love some help with things. But, you might have to you might have to do that stuff for free for a little bit until you do get taken seriously and do get to move up. Are there any third-party tools needed? Do I need to know and use them? I'm gonna figure out. For what? I mean, there are lots of third-party tools out there. Redgate makes third-party tools. Apex makes third-party tools. I think every monitoring product for SQL Server is a third-party tool. I'm starting to think Windows is a third-party tool because they're putting Alexa on it. I don't know. I mean, there's nothing you need to know, but there's all sorts of stuff that's great to know. Do I see the role of DBA blurring with the data analyst? Maybe a little bit, but I think generally there's going to be a decent amount of separation there. The data scientist type to me is going to be, someone in a lab coat with a PhD who's smart, someone like Buck Woody. Well, Buck Woody doesn't wear anything under his lab coat, so that's a little awkward, but Buck Woody is very smart. Do I see it blurring? Well, I just don't see data scientists wanting to worry about backups or worrying about index tuning and stuff. So, will I do see some DBAs might want to start getting familiar with that stuff. I don't think that's the path that I think those roles are going to stay fairly separate unless, you work for a really cheap company who is okay with sort of dodgy data science and dodgy DBA work at the same time. Any insight on self-turning? Boy, you're going to have to ask that question a little bit different. I don't know where you're going with that. Sorry. All right. Shane, about how long do you do the Q&A for? Just until people stop asking questions, or do we have a hard stop at all?
Do you want to stop me from asking questions?
No, I'm totally fine. I'm totally fine doing it. I just didn't know if you had real jobs or you had to do stuff. I'm not booked today, so I can just hang out. I mean, I'm
it's
start
the end of
something other than water.
I can do the same.
Woohoo! All right.
We normally stop around now, whenever you want, though.
No, you tell me. I'm good with whatever.
You got another 2 minutes. Go for it,
All right. In your opinion, how can they keep the devs off of the production from querying and random? Don't give them logins, or change their passwords, or do awful things. Disable their logins. When I talk to management about why I don't want developers doing that stuff, I don't like to phrase it as a what if performance problem. I like to phrase it as, well, what if you tick off that guy in cube 3 and he decides to query production and walk out the door with everyone's credit card numbers? That's the bigger issue to me than they might slow things down. They might block something. It's no, man, they might steal all their data. They might take a backup and leave. They might encrypt the database and throw away the encryption keys. I don't know what they're going to do. They all have SA. I can't control them. Whoops, I just dropped a database. I don't know who it was. This stuff you can do. You can twist arms a little bit. All right, I think that's the last of the questions. I got a thank you in chat, so I guess that's the end of it.
You got a few thank yous.
Someone's clapping me off stage.
We're gonna play the music in a second now.
Yeah, right. All right.
No.
I'll say thank you everyone for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was at least informative in some way and hopefully entertaining. I did write this whole thing myself, so if you didn't laugh at the jokes, I'm crushed virtually.
Well, the Ronnie Coleman quote got me, so that's the main thing.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Now, like you can see the chat window. Everyone's saying thank you, and it was a great session. Like I'm a junior DBA myself, so it is nice to get that kind of information out there. There's not a lot, so
Cool,
it's
man.
good to see.
Glad to help.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you have do you have an exit thing that you got to go through?
We do have an exit thing, yes. And normally
All right,
Steve
do your exit thing.
busy, but I'll try it. So
All right.
just going to thank everyone for coming out today. We hope you learned something. For those of you who didn't ask, out of politeness, we will have the session up as a recording as soon as we can. That'll be over on our YouTube channel, dbafuntube.org. Next up, as Steve said in the beginning, will be Jess Borland, but we will have a newsletter out before that. Thank you again.
Jess.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Eric. Really appreciate that.
Bye. Take care.
Yeah.